heart to learning, open up my heart to love. Help me to know myself and how I should learn. I open up to learning, I open up to joy. Help me to learn a language and let it be my happiness.
Hello everyone, welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Over the last number of months, you'll know that the British government have made a plan to introduce digital ID cards to all British people. I've been covering a few news reports about this, and there's a new one which came out on the 18th of December. We're going to have a look at that now. It's from ITVX, which is one of our TV channels at news services. And there's also other media covering this, such as the London Standard. But let's go and have a look at the story and see what sense we can make of it. Right, here we are, and you can see here at the top it says ITVX. This is ITV's news service, and the headline says, "Whistleblowers raise extreme concern about security of government's digital ID." Now, of course, there's a lot of criticism right now, a lot of controversial comments and discussion about these digital IDs. This is from Sam Holder, who's an ITV News reporter. Let's look and see what he's saying. He's got a video there, so you can log in and check that. We're going to read the text. It says, "The whistleblowers are involved in the development of the One Login technology, which will form the basis of digital ID and is already used by around 13 million people in the UK." Right, let's just talk about this for a moment. So it's saying here that whistleblowers are involved in the development. Well, what is a whistleblower? Well, a whistleblower is someone who works for a particular organization or company, and when they see wrongdoing, illegality, something illegal, or something that's just not right, something which causes concern, then they will raise it through the appropriate channels, or they will give it to the media. That's a whistleblower. It's also a verb, to whistleblow, if you see wrong information. Okay. Now it says here about the development of this technology, but it goes on to say it's already being used by 13 million people in the UK. We need to read more about that because we don't know how this is working. Let's see. The data of millions of people in Britain is at risk as a result of significant cybersecurity issues with the government's planned digital ID, multiple whistleblowers have warned. The whistleblowers, who have shared confidential documents and emails with ITV News to back up their claims, are senior civil servants involved in the development of the One Login technology, which will form the basis of digital ID. They have asked to remain anonymous to protect their careers, and one of the civil servants fears the problems could lead to the worst data breach in UK government history. Now, there's a few things here. Civil servants, of course, are government employees, and they're saying that they're really concerned. Are they? Or are they selling a story, maybe to the media to get some money? We don't know who they are, so this isn't an open report. But what I can tell you is it's not just with ITV. This is appearing in other newspapers as well, and it certainly will undermine the government's attempt to introduce digital IDs. Let's have a look. It says here, one login is already used by 13 million people in the UK for a variety of government services, including managing a state pension, cancelling a lost passport, and registering as a teacher or social worker. Right, so it's saying here that this technology is already being used, but it's not already being used for digital ID. So this is a little bit misleading, this statement at the top. It says here, and is already used by around 13 million people. Okay, so it's not that 13 million people have a digital ID, it's they're using technology, which is a platform called One Login, which digital ID is going to be brought into. This doesn't exist in all of the UK, by the way. This is a very much an English thing. Scottish people, for example, have their own logins for this this kind of thing. Right, let's go back and see what they're saying. Right, the government has confirmed it will form the basis of digital ID, which will become mandatory for all adults by 2029. The planned ID will be stored on a digital wallet on an individual's phone and contain their name, date of birth, nationality or residency status, and biometric data, a photo. Okay, so it goes on. It says here, whistleblowers have told ITV News that One Login is failing to meet the mandatory minimum government cybersecurity standards, secure by design, and the cyber assessment framework. People without the expected level of security clearance have been able to access the heart of the system, including staff in Romania who were hired to carry out some of the developments. Now, of course, by invoking other countries, it makes the story seem so much worse. We don't have any details, of course, about what this actually is. It could just be a usual offshore contract, who knows? But because it involves people and their data, these whistleblowers are very concerned. It says here there are concerns that system administrators have been using unsecure devices, creating the potential for a pipeline between bad actors on the internet and the most sensitive parts of digital ID. So this is another example of how this plan is probably going to be dead in the water, to use an English idiom. Many people are against it, and there's a number of criticisms. This indeed is just one of them. Right, let's move on to see what it says. Okay, there is another video clip here where they're talking to a whistleblower. Let's see if we can listen to that.
The vulnerabilities are standard, things that you must not do, but they've been done. So it would not take any creative thinking.
Right, so obviously they've disguised this person's voice, which makes it much more difficult to understand and to hear. And the little clip I just played there, even I didn't really catch what the man was saying. So not very helpful, but they're obviously trying to protect his identity. And it says here, the vulnerabilities are standard things you must not do, but they've been done. one of the whistleblowers told ITV News. It would not take any creative thinking for a state actor or organized crime to target the vulnerabilities in digital identity. Okay, a state actor. Interesting. This is a new phrase which has been appearing when they talk about different people involved in scandals. It says here highly sensitive documents leaked to ITV News by another whistleblower show some of these concerns were investigated within the government's digital service, and they found that the program is indeed carrying a high level of risk. The National Cybersecurity Centre, which advises on secure digital practices, found one login carried the risk of bulk theft of personal data, identity theft, the government being defrauded, economic damage, people and witness protection, intelligence agents, and foreign dissidents being identified. We have proved it can be compromised, they've said. A testing team was able to access sensitive areas undetected. If this were happen, I guess this should say if this were to happen as part of a real attack, a whistleblower says this could have widespread repercussions for everyday people. And there he is again talking like a Dalek, if you like Doctor Who. Right. And then it says here, multiple sources have told ITV News team that during a red team exercise, a standard security test earlier this year, a major security flaw was uncovered. A remote attacker was able to introduce malware onto a device used by a system administrator and gain access to sensitive parts of one login without triggering an alert on the security monitoring system. As the service is already live, the whistleblowers say it is theoretically possible that a state actor like Russia or China or organized crime groups could have already gained access to one login without the government knowing. They go on to say, we don't know if the system has been compromised or not, but we have proved it can be compromised, says one of the whistleblowers. The maximum damage that I can conceive is that the government allow digital identity to continue to roll out and to onboard all government services. And then at a time of a bad state actor or criminals choosing, they deny access to the services. That would shut everybody out of attempts to claim their pensions, welfare benefits, renew their passports, get a driving license, everything. I've risked my career to speak to you because I'm extremely concerned. And then we have a screenshot of what they use. This is currently, as far as I know anyway, only being used in England. And I think probably it's used across the whole of the UK for accessing UK-wide things such as the state pension benefits. I don't think that's been passed to Scotland yet. I know some welfare benefits are now operated separately by some of the UK governments, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. But I think the state benefits are still held by the central government, so everybody would need this app to access that. As I say, Scotland has its own application, which is called MyScot, which gives you access to, I think, your bus passes. It gives you access to your, to certain medical records as well, with your local GP practice. So this one is less common outside of England. It says here, ITV News repeatedly asked for an interview with the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology, Liz Kendall, whose department oversees One Login and Digital ID. We were told she was unavailable for an interview. Instead, we received a statement attributed to an unnamed UK government spokesperson, which reads, "Protecting user data and the integrity of government systems is always our highest priority." We work continuously to monitor and defend against all threats and work closely with the National Cybersecurity Centre, which provides advice to the programme on a wider range of cybersecurity matters, the statement says. And then it goes on to say how good they are, of course, and the fabulous things they are doing. Yeah, worrying, isn't it? But then again, if the banks can protect our data, it can't be that hard, really, for the government to do it, surely. Although probably there's a cost issue, isn't there? What else does it say here? Let's move down. It says here, in response to claims the Red Team was able to access the service without triggering a security alert, the statement says, when after several weeks of testing, the Red Team were unable to infiltrate or compromise the system during the exercise, we deliberately created a simulated scenario which gave them access to the system and enabled us to further test security. I don't quite know what they're saying there, but anyway, getting a bit too technical for me. What you do need to know, of course, and that's the end of the story, is that this is a major issue which has come up, and it's going to force many of us, again, to question whether we trust the government. Now, it's not only this, unfortunately. If it was only this issue, maybe we could say, oh, well, the government can fix it. But there's a very deep distrust around this whole issue. Right, you can see here on my Google search page, this story has appeared in a few different places. So London Evening Standard is the top one. It's also on a Facebook page, a Big Brother Watch, YouTube's ITV News, again on Facebook, Think Digital Partners. There's the original story for ITV, and it's also on social media. Well, of course, we want to stay with trusted news partners. So let's have a look. Here we are. This is the London Standard, the UK digital ID card. Everything we know as whistleblowers sound alarm over data security. So let's just have a little look at this and see what it's saying. Concerns over data security have cast doubt on the UK's digital ID card plans, raising fears of a potential data breach. And we'll see here, the UK government's plan to launch a mandatory digital ID card has been thrown into disarray after whistleblowers raised extreme concerns about data security. Okay, so as you can see there from the headline, it's looking like the media here, by using these words, have cast doubt on the UK's digital ID card plans. It sounds like they've already decided it's not going to happen. There's a big doubt there. That indeed could be true, because I think the government's not very popular at the moment. Who knows what's going to happen in the coming year? And also, by saying these plans have been thrown into disarray, or once the media, of course, turn against these plans, it's, I think, game over for everybody. But we don't know. I mean, perhaps there is a way the government can make this popular, but it doesn't sound like it's going to go very far. As we say in the UK, it looks like this could be dead in the water. But who knows? Even if it is, it could easily be resurrected in the future by somebody else. Let's see. Okay, so speaking to ITV News, we've already read this. Two senior civil servants who requested their identities to be withheld warned the outlet that the plans could lead to the worst data breach in UK government history. And then the story continues just to cover what we've already spoken about. It says here the new investigation relates to the government's one login technology. And there's all kinds of doubts about it. But, well, if the banks can protect our data, I don't see that it's difficult, is it? I mean, if the banks can protect someone accessing my bank account, it can't be that hard. Or maybe they just have the money to spend on it. I don't know how much money the banks spend on technology, but even if I use open Wi-Fi, I'm told that hackers still can't get info. So what's the details here then? How is it that a foreign agent or a state actor, as they're called, could access my data? It can't be that hard to encrypt it and protect it. But clearly the governments haven't invested enough in that. Yeah, so among the concerns raised to ITV News, well, we've read that story, so we're not going to read it again. But there is another story breaking about ID cards, and we're going to just have a look at that. Right, so now we're at the state broadcaster for the Republic of Ireland, RTE. Radio Telefish Erin, as it's known in Irish. This is a wonderful English language news service because Ireland, Southern Ireland, is in Europe. It offers a mix of stories from the north of Ireland, Northern Ireland, the south, and also what's happening in Europe. It's a great place to be if you are looking for some English media. They also have their own TV and radio. It's like the BBC, but for Ireland, okay, called the RTE. Now, they're carrying a story which came out yesterday, and this story is also in the Irish Times if you want to check on it. It says here, fears around the impact of UK ID cards on common travel area and Irish citizen rights, and it came out yesterday. Now, quite a dramatic headline there, but I need to give you the background. So basically, as you know, every year, around the New Year time, the government release papers which were previously private or classified. It's quite common, and if you look at the BBC tomorrow or the next day, you'll start to see that British government officials release documents over a certain age. They pass them over to the National Archives, which means that our media can access them and see what previous governments were thinking. Of course, Ireland, at one point in its history, was ruled by England, and so they have very similar laws. And here is a good example of that. So it's looking back to when Tony Blair, one of our old prime ministers, tried to introduce ID cards the last time. He didn't succeed, but it tells us what happened in Ireland at that time, what they thought about it. So that's why it says state papers. Let's read. Irish officials privately believed British government plans to introduce national ID cards in 2005, that was a Tony Blair attempt, could lead to discrimination against Irish citizens in Northern Ireland in Britain. The concerns over the plans are outlined in the latest tranche of state papers released to the National Archives of Ireland. And this is what I'm saying. The same thing will happen here in the UK. A whole bunch of papers will pass over into the public domain. So you'll be hearing a bit more about that in our media. But in Ireland, apparently, it says here, The UK ID card plans, known in some quarters of the British media as Brit cards, were put forward 20 years ago in a bid to help reduce the risk of terrorism, illegal migration, identity fraud, and public administration issues. They were criticised by social justice groups, government officials, as they could also complicate the century-old common travel area between Ireland and the UK. Yeah, regardless of European Union and visas and these things, British people and Irish people share a way to travel to each other's countries. So we have some agreement in place that we can just go there. We don't actually need visas, for example. Ireland also, as far as I know, isn't part of the Schengen. It says here, while the plan was put forward 2005 with related legislation, they actually drafted up laws, being introduced in Britain the following year, the plan ran over budget and was eventually cancelled when David Cameron's Conservative government came to power. And it says here that basically the Irish were very concerned about this. It says here there may be some elements in the Irish community who will be reluctant for the British state to maintain information on them. A summary of a lengthy discussion between the Irish officials noted. So this was back in 2005 that the Irish were concerned because, of course, many people living in the north, the British part of Ireland, the part that isn't the southern part, the part that's in the UK, they will hold Irish identities. They have Irish passports, for example, and Ireland sees Southern Ireland, the government, views the whole of Ireland as one. So they don't make any difference between North and South. They just see their people. So it's saying here there would be issues going forward if ID cards were brought in, and that was back in 2005. So I've no doubt that those old wounds and discussions will be coming back if this does actually go ahead. It goes on to say, British Home Office officials in 2005, it says here in that first paragraph, Trudy Payne and Stephen Harrison said obligations under the agreement had been met because Northern Ireland residents were free to designate themselves as Irish, British, or have no nationality listed. I'm not sure what that means then. Are they saying that you can choose to have an ID card there? There may in the future, remember this is from 2005, there may in the future be many more people claiming dual nationality than there are now. Oh, yes. In Northern Ireland, the officials noted but added that an ID card without citizenship details would be the obvious choice for them. An ID card without citizenship details would be the obvious choice. So they're saying there then that they still would have given them ID cards, but it wouldn't say what nationality they were. Well, these new digital ID cards look like they'll be a little bit different. So very interesting. That's how it looked like 2005. The Irish government was concerned, and no doubt they're still concerned. In fact, we know they are, because we've covered that previously. And there we are. So that's a look back at the archives. Right, there we are. That's a summary of the latest updates regarding this Brit card. So we don't know what's going to happen. My big prediction is that probably this plan is dead in the water. I can't imagine it going ahead. And I can't imagine our current government surviving until the next election, which I think the central government elections are in 2029, I think, something like that. But who knows? maybe things will be turned around. We have to wait and see, but yeah, scary, isn't it? I won't be beating a path through the jungle to download my digital ID or to get to the government office that gives it to me. I think I prefer not to have it, but who knows? I have to wait and see. Right, that's it from me. See you all soon. Bye.